patient. What I've done so far is just treatment planned a workup. We're going to retain all these teeth. We're going to prep tooth 4, 5, 6, extract tooth number 7, 8. This is a long span bridge. Tooth number 11 is actually in tooth number 10 site. I'm going to remove that. And then this tooth's questionable. 11's missing, 12's questionable. So the patient elected just to have it removed. We were originally going to put the implant number 11 site. So we're going to originally do a 4-unit anterior bridge and a single tooth implant number 11. Tooth number 12 is questionable with the long-term prognosis. It's not going to cost her any more or any less just to remove it in 12 sites. So we're going to eventually restore this with a 4-unit anterior bridge and then connect it to this tooth number 12 implant. So what I've done so far is just imported the DICOM file into Blue Sky Bio Plan, and then import the a model scan. And then in the surfaces, I've just duplicated the model scan and changed the name to extract the teeth. Whenever you modify any of the models, you definitely want to duplicate it before you make changes, and you'll see what we'll do in a second. So in cross-sectional, you can see that it's real thin buccal plate. This is tooth number, or implant number 12, implant, and number 11 site, but this is removing the canine. A little bit better bone just because of the canine eminence. And we have like this peg lateral that's really not a good bone at all. Real thin. These are all 3.5 by 10.5 implants. So from here, we've already stitched our original DICOM file in the software, and now what we need to do is just remove this original scan, open up our guide tubes. This is where the guide tubes are going to come out of. I'm not really extremely ecstatic about that, but going back to these cross-sectional CTs, you can see I don't really have, I'm going to unlock these. I don't really have enough room to change the angle that much to get these to come out the lingual aspect. Now what we are going to do is open up our bite whenever we do this case, so I'll be able to cheat a little bit more on these, which will help me out a lot. So I'll just double check all these, make sure I'm good angles, improve the angles if I can. Because I didn't like where the guide tubes landed. But you can see not a lot of bone, not great. Good bone up here, real thin facial plate, trying to stay outside the cortex. So turn our guide tubes on, and we're not going to do a direct cut for this case. We're actually going to do a custom kit, and we'll change all these to 2.1. Just make sure that they're 2.1 guide hole diameter, and that's going to be our pilot drill, which is a 2.0. So you can see them still coming out the facial, and this is one of the more difficult cases that we're going to be doing, just because we have a lot of soft tissue recession. I can show you photos, and I'll present this case eventually, but it's a lot of soft tissue recession. So we're going to do some buccal bone grafting, some allodome grafting the day of surgery, and a lot of PRF. But again, a 4-unit bridge, tie it back to this tooth number 12. This tooth will be crowned, and these 3 teeth will be crowned to open up a bite, open up a vertical. Alright, so this is what we're going to do. So we have 2 actually surfaces. Again, we have the model scan, which is just a CT rendering of our impression. And what we did is we just duplicated it. We just click this, duplicate it. We have this model scan where we're going to extract the teeth. So we'll turn this off. And what I do is I flip everything upside down. And for the day of the surgery, what I'm going to do is extracting tooth number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then I'm going to be putting my guide down. So I'm going to build my guide to fit over this first molar across the arch, and have at least 2 teeth. So canine, premolar are mixed in all the way out to this premolar, just for a little bit more stabilization. You can even go to the first molar on the side as well. So what you do is you highlight, and then you go into cut tool, and you press shift, and you cut out this little area. You can see how it looks. You just want to make sure you're not cutting these back teeth here. You can even do it from this angle. which sometimes is a little bit easier. You just kind of want to get the gross part of it out, and again, angling the model like this, and not down. We'll double check this, make sure it looks good, and it does. So the idea is just to get the majority of that out. Mesh cut failed. We'll have to fix that. So you can see. Okay. All right. So I have that, and that'll be enough to build my guide on. I'm gonna continue with this. Just tweaking it up. All right. So we'll do that with that later in Mesh Mixer. I'm not really pleased with this. I know what's going on with her because of soft tissue recession. So I'm very aware that, all right, you see how this is coming out a little bit mesially? I'm gonna see if I can correct that. This looks pretty good. This is coming out super facial. Let's go back into these. All right, so I'm gonna lock, yeah, make sure these are unlocked. All right, so this is this implant here. I'm gonna see if I can change the angle and get it to come out a little more. Oh, let's do this guy right here. A little bit more distally. See what that looks like. That's better. You can see this is where the mesh failed, and I'll have to fix that in Mesh Mixer. We'll deal with that later. We'll still be able to export the mesh. All right, so it doesn't have to look glamorously perfect in this. All we really have to do is go back to guide panel now, make sure that we're clicked on maxilla, make sure that we're on the model scan for the extraction to build our guide. We're going to draw a curve from this first molar across the arch over here, and then again around the facial, holding shift key the whole way. All right, so then let's edit the curve, get this further up here. Everything looks pretty good. All right, liking what I'm seeing. So from here on, I'd put back on my guide tubes, make sure everything looks, yeah, it looks a lot better. Again, I'm still facial number 12. Let me see if I can do anything with that. I'll have to bring this down to cover this area. See what that looks like. A lot better. Man, that's why it's so important to see this. I'm glad I ran into that issue while I'm recording live. All right, so that looks a lot better. I think it's a better angle, definitely, for the custom abutment, which we'll still do, but much easier restoratively. So then now, I'll go back into guide panel and just click on create surgical guide, and then let the software think for a little bit. If you'll note, I'm just now seeing this on this canine area. I clipped it a little bit. We can either actually go back, or once you 3D print the guide, just make some adjustments in the guide manually. So I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Always like to see these holes to make sure the guide's seated all the way. You can actually add a window to the guide too, and cut this out to make sure that the posterior segment is seated. Or if you don't want to do that, if you want to, let's see, remove. If you want to just make sure that this is seated just as well in the back area, you can do that as well. So then that's it. So all I have to do is just save my data and then export this as an STL, and 3D print this on my robots.